Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to CHAD, the Center for Healing and Development, where we help you to heal, grow, and transform. And it's me, Dr. Nicole Montero, here with a mental health moment. Thank you so much for joining. And today, as you can see from the topic, I wanted to talk about coping in the aftermath of a tragedy. So if you have paid any attention to the news, you know that we are witnessing tragedies all around us. Most recently, on Friday, March the 15th, there were horrible attacks on two mosques in New Zealand, terrorist attacks by a white supremacist, self-proclaimed white supremacist who went in to these two mosques and just shot point blank people, victims as young as 3 years old up to 71 years old. At least 50 dead, dozens injured. This is a real tragedy. And unfortunately, sadly, this is not the only one that we've seen. There was the Pulse nightclub shooting. There were attacks in Europe. There were other attacks at a church in South Carolina, a Black church in South Carolina. So we are seeing more and more, not only of mass shootings, but events that are driven by hatred, by terrorism, by an ideology that says people who I don't like deserve to die, innocent people. And in fact, innocent people are targeted because of this terrorism. So this is a unique type of tragedy that we're seeing more and more of. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about how those types of tragedies affect all of us, because we're exposed through the media and through hearing about it, in ways that you can cope. How it might affect you, to recognize some of the signs and ways that you might cope with it. And so I call these tragedies, sometimes people call them disasters, terrorist acts, but really what they are events that traumatize people, a large number of people. So we're talking not only about the direct victims, the people who were killed, who were injured, their family members, their friends, their loved ones, their communities, but in many ways, all of us as the world community are connected to these tragedies. And in particular, if you are a member or you identify with one of the groups that was targeted for their identity with these tragedies. So if you are a Muslim, or if you are someone, this shooter also was targeting, he didn't like immigrants. So it was Muslim immigrants. So if you are an immigrant, or you are someone who feels marginalized and targeted because of your identity, these types of tragedies are likely, or they potentially can really trigger some traumatic reactions in you. You are part of what we call a survivorship group, so you identify in some way with the victims, and so those types of tragedies can really have an effect without you even knowing it. And so some of the signs, what we call as being vicariously traumatized, or indirectly, or we could even think of it as being directly traumatized by these events. You might experience signs and symptoms that are physical, that are emotional, that are relational. A lot of times people might report a feeling of, being tired, being fatigued, feeling like they just don't have energy, feeling a bit withdrawn, not wanting to interact as much with the people around them, with their loved ones, reporting physical symptoms like vague aches and pains, soreness in the body, like I said, a tiredness, a sense that you don't have the energy to do the things that you wanted to do. It could also be psychological and emotional, so thinking constantly about your own safety, fearing for the safety of your loved ones, thinking, being unable to get the event, the tragedy that happened out of your mind, feeling drawn to watch over and over news reports or read, on the internet or social media all about it. So immersing yourself in it and feeling like you can't bring yourself away from it. It could be emotional, feeling sadness, feeling crying, feeling anger, intense anger and rage, but not really knowing how or where to direct it. It could also include a sense of numbness, feeling that guilty for surviving, depending on how close or far you were to the tragedy, but feeling sometimes guilty that you don't feel more. So you could be thinking about it a lot, but also feeling a sense of emotional numbness, which could, could be a little bit disconcerting to you. So as you can see, there are a wide array of symptoms. A lot of times what's most common is people report that their sleep may be interrupted and they don't know why. Or they might feel that their quality of sleep is affected. So they're waking up not feeling as energized, not feeling as rested. So as you can see, there are a wide range of ways that these types of tragedies that we are inundated with. And I say inundated because we are now in a 24-hour news cycle. You cannot even open your phone without an alert about these types of events, or turn on the news, turn on the radio. Even if you're watching something like basketball, there might be an alert that comes up, or breaking news or something that reports these. So it's really hard to escape. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to do to be able to cope. Because unfortunately, these types of traumas and tragedies, the way they affect us tends to be very cumulative. So when there's event after event, tragedy after tragedy, the effects can build up so that our reactions to them, our symptoms can become more intense over time. Or we may have a delayed reaction, and then out of nowhere, where it seems like there's no trigger, all of the feelings, all of the thoughts, all of the physical reactions kind of come over us really quickly. And so it's really important to be aware that we can be affected by these, particularly if you are a part of a group that identifies with the victim. So if you are a Muslim, wherever you are in the world, this really hits home, particularly because there's a rise in Islamophobia. Jewish people report top feeling of, the effects of a rise of anti-Semitism. There's a rise in anti-Black racism. There's a rise in xenophobia. So if you are one of the members of a group that identifies with being targeted, you can really be triggered by these events and news of these events. And so, one important part is to really be aware of how you can be affected, even though you may be hundreds and thousands of miles away from the event. The other thing is to really be able to utilize some coping strategies, some self-care strategies, things that you can do and implement on your own to really help to calm you, bring a little bit of balance to yourself, to put you in a space where if you do feel like you want to talk about it, or you want to connect with others who might be having the same experience, that you can do that, and feeling like you can have a sense of control over your own well-being. And so some important coping strategies are actually strategies that are not just for tragedies. These are strategies that are just good overall mental health and well-being care. But particularly in the aftermath of a tragedy, it's important to pay attention to how you're reacting, how you're feeling, and go to your toolbox of coping strategy. And one really, really important but overlooked coping strategy is to take care of your basic needs, such as making sure that you're eating regularly, drinking enough water, that you're at least trying to get sleep, that you're, maintaining a regular sleep schedule, that you are, if you can, get in some movement, exercise. Yoga is really powerful. You can go all over the internet and just get basic poses that you can implement just even at your chair. And so, those basic self-care habits that you don't want to slack off, because when you're under stress, when your body, your mind, and your emotional system is under stress, it needs more than ever for you to care for it as you normally do with those basic needs. You're eating, you're sleeping, you're drinking water, your movement, you're also being aware or cognizant of not isolating yourself too much. We all, have different social needs. Some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts. We might need more time alone, but it's really important to be aware of whether or not you're isolating yourself because you feel like you just don't have the energy, you're going into a depressive mode. And so you want to be able to check in. If there's just one person that you can check in, talk to, kind of vent to if you need to, or just have a brief conversation, so that you're in the habit of having daily contact with at least one person. And then I would take it further and say it's really an important coping strategy is to identify or try to identify or develop a social relationship with at least one person that you can really talk to in a heart-to-heart way, that you can really kind of let your guard down and let them know if you're struggling or if you need support or if you just need to talk and have interactions. We all, we all thrive on social interactions. So it's really important, if that's something that you are missing or you feel that you don't have enough of in your life, to think about working on how to develop, almost how to get your tribe together, even if it's a tribe of one, your social network. Another really important coping strategy that you can implement very easily is to learn calming techniques and grounding techniques. So grounding techniques are really a way of practicing mindfulness, which is really big these days. And mindfulness is nothing, it's quite simple. It's not, it doesn't have to be transcendental meditation. It's really putting your focus and your attention on the here and now, where you are right now, not the past, not worrying about the future, not ruminating about the past, but focusing, as they say, the present is a gift. Really understanding that the most important moment is the present moment. And you can practice mindfulness in a number of ways. It could be by attending to where your thoughts wander when you're trying to do an activity. It could be with guided imagery or guided visualization activities. There's some great apps such as Headspace, Calm, and others that really have tons of guided meditations that you can just put your earphones on and do for 10 minutes. And they guide you on how to bring your attention back to the present moment. Deep breathing, they call it deep breathing, but really what the research shows is that what's really impactful on your nervous system and helping to calm you is slow breathing. So not to get caught up in whether it's in the abdomen or is it the diaphragm, the chest, that to really focus on slow breathing. And there's something called a reset breath, where you inhale to the count of 4, you hold for the count of 7, and you exhale slowly to the count of 8. And if you could just practice that, 4 sets of that. So you inhale 4 to the count of 4, you hold for 7, and you exhale slowly to the count of 8. Just 4 of those, that takes less than 5 minutes, but that's a way of really helping to obtain some control over, what's happening within your body, develop body awareness, and to really calm the central nervous system. Another mindfulness procedure or activity is, I've mentioned, grounding. So that is really paying attention to your physical and mental and psychological self in the moment. So activating your 5 senses in the here and now, looking around in the room, noticing one particular thing, physical thing that you see in the room, one thing that you hear in the room, touching something. So even being aware of your body touching something, such as sitting on the chair or wherever you're sitting. You can even notice what's going on, with your mouth and if you're, your taste buds and so forth, but really bringing things back to your sensory experience in the here and now. And that is the opposite of sort of dissociating and going off somewhere that's not in the present. So grounding is very simple. You can pick 5 things that activate your senses: what you see right now, what you hear right now, what you feel right now, what you taste right now. And you can, that really keeps and brings you into the present moment. And those are things that you could be doing while no one knows it. You could do those reset breaths. You could do grounding exercises. You could even do, when you're at home, you could do the guided meditations, guided visualizations, where you could go off into a corner for 5 minutes. You can put on one of those apps, and doing those things consistently really helps you to bring a sense of control, a sense of mastery over what's happening in your body and your mind. It doesn't mean that you're never going to experience anxiety, but it means when you feel yourself getting overwhelmed with anxiety, you can start to practice those things. You can have a sense of agency and control over how you're reacting and how you're feeling. Another important coping strategy is to allow yourself to sort of disconnect from the event. So I know sometimes if, all of us in the Muslim community are so focused on what recently happened in New Zealand, but but you've got to disconnect from it sometimes. You have to sort of take yourself away. The news will be there. You'll get the details. You'll get the facts. You have to kind of disconnect so that you can renew and then reconnect in a way that's healthier. And some ways to disconnect are to just turn off the news, turn off social media, but also do something fun. Do something playful, do something that brings you joy, particularly if you notice when one of your reactions is to isolate or to not participate in the thing, feeling like you're no longer interested in the things that brought you excitement, joy, and pleasure. So you want to find things, even if it's the smallest thing, going out for a walk to reconnect with nature, going to get an ice cream cone, going to, watching TV is fine, but sometimes if you can get out and be active in something that's fun and playful, that gets you out into your body, we call it not just mindfulness, but embodiness, where you're kind of, integrating mindfulness with doing something physical with your body. That can be really, really helpful. Okay, so these coping strategies they range from everything, the everyday things that you need to do, just good basic habits of taking care of yourself, to learning some new strategies such as calming reset breath, grounding, activating the senses, getting out and having some fun, and reconnecting with your social network as you disconnect from your sort of virtual, social media and things like that. And a lot of times our social network is connected to social media. That, there are all kind of groups and communities on social media, and that's wonderful. That's great. But you need to have a balance where you're not all virtual, if it feels like you're being drawn into something that takes you out of the present moment. Okay, so these are some tips to help you deal with tragedies, in particular tragedies where you feel like you are one of the members of the targeted group. So with the event that just happened in New Zealand, where 2 mosques were shot up, people, Muslims, we feel under attack, immigrants feel under attack. There have been all kinds of identity-based hate events and hate crimes and terrorist events, mass shootings. Violence is all around. So it's really important to learn how to be aware of how it affects you, and to learn your own strategies for coping and self-care and managing your emotions, everything that's going on with you in the aftermath of these types of events. So I hope that you can, this has been helpful. I hope that you can try to implement 1 or 2 of these. Let me know if you have any questions. And please, please take good care of yourself. If you are on social media, take those social media mental health breaks. It's really, really important. My next video is actually going to be about mental health breaks from social media. All right. Thank you for tuning in to A Mental Health Moment with Dr. Montero with CHAD, the Center for Healing and Development. Go to our website, chadwellness.com, and our Facebook page, Chad Wellness on Facebook. Take care.